Welcome back to Animal Appreciation. This week we are talking about kingfishers. So I actually didn't know that there was this many species of kingfishers. Like, this in this video isn't even all of them. There's so many. There's like almost 50 species, which is nuts. So these are just the ones that I like the best and think are the most interesting. So this is the belted kingfisher, probably one of the better known species of kingfisher. It lives throughout pretty much the entirety of North America, all the way from Alaska down through Canada, through most of the United States, into some areas of Mexico, even down as far as Colombia. So these guys are pretty widespread. They're also just a really cute little guy, and I love them. I'm a big fan of kingfishers. They're up there with some of my favorite species of animals altogether. So we love them. This is the gray-headed kingfisher. It's an African species, and it has a really big range throughout a large area of Africa. These guys are found all the way from the Cape Verde Islands through Senegal, all the way through like Ethiopia up to Saudi Arabia. So these guys are also very widespread. This is the African pygmy kingfisher. They also live throughout Africa, just in a bit of a different area than the gray-headed one. They tend to live more in the southern areas, so around like Botswana and South Africa and all that. So they're not quite as widespread, they just like different areas, but they've still got a pretty good range. This is the Guam kingfisher. This is the rarest species of kingfisher. It was endemic to the island of Guam, but it is locally extinct there, and now the only specimens of these guys exist in captivity. So that's very unfortunate, but there are captive breeding programs going on to hopefully be able to re-release these guys into Guam. Hopefully that's going well. I might do an endangered species spotlight on these guys. But yeah, they're very cute, but unfortunately they are pretty near extinction. This is the indigo-banded kingfisher. It is endemic to just a couple of islands in the Philippines. Again, this is another very, very pretty species. I love these guys. They're so gorgeous. They are only found on a couple islands, but fortunately they're not classified as endangered yet, which is great. This is the mangrove kingfisher, another African species. These guys prefer more like wet and swampy wetland areas, and they can be found down from South Africa all the way up to Kenya in more swampy, like marsh coastal areas, which, I mean, they're really cute. I love their red beak. This is the red-backed kingfisher. It is native to pretty much the entirety of Australia, except for a few areas right in the middle, I think, as well as Tasmania. But these guys can be found pretty commonly throughout Australia. This is the oriental dwarf kingfisher. They are the smallest kingfisher species, and they are found throughout most of Southeast Asia, a lot in India. And this is actually what they look like. These Lisa Frank looking motherfuckers, they actually look like this. This isn't photoshopped or anything. It might be slightly edited to bring out the colors, but this is actually what they look like, which is insane. This is the laughing kookaburra. I think these guys are probably my favorite kingfisher species. I just love kookaburras. They're so cute, and lots of people apparently don't know that they are actually kingfishers. These guys live throughout most of Australia. If you live in Australia, you're probably pretty familiar with these guys. They're pretty common. So all kookaburras are a species of kingfisher, and I just obsessed with these guys. I love them. They are also the largest species of kingfisher. They can get decently big for these types of birds. This is the pied kingfisher. It's another African species. Like, lots of kingfishers live in Africa. I was not aware that there was this many kingfisher species in Africa, but they live in the sub-Saharan region. so like below the Sahara Desert, and I think they're really cool. I love the monochrome. This is the common kingfisher, probably the most well-known species. Like, this is probably what most people would picture if you said, think of a kingfisher for me. They're actually, like, as the name would suggest, pretty common. They live throughout most of Europe, lots of areas of Asia, as well as lots of areas in Africa, usually during the winter as, like, migratory visitors, but they do live in Africa. Yeah, very widespread, very common, also gorgeous, loving the blue and orange. They're just very nice. And finally, we have the Amazon kingfisher, and you get one guess as to where these guys live. So these guys don't just live in the Amazon, they do live in a few other areas, down all the way from Mexico through South America, Central America, all the way down to some areas in Argentina. So this isn't even all the kingfisher species, there's way more. These are just the ones that I like the best personally. So if you want to go check out more kingfisher species, there's a lot of them.